Today, we are going to have a serious discussion following on what I last did. Today's session is called MV Fantastica versus HMS Redemtoria, two big words. But this follows on from my last clip, 216, which you must watch, which is about Waterloo to Wuhan and Voltaire to variants. So today, let me give a very brief summary of the present situation of the virus and treatment. Now, a study in MIT, Massachusetts, they have found that a cinnamon drinking tea as cinnamon, can help the resolution of the lung condition that comes from the virus. So that's a plus factor because we have enough cinnamon here. Then the rest of the situation is that Delta variant has gone through another mutation, and that's called Kappa. I just start with this bit of helpful instruction because everybody's worried about it. So the issue is that this variant quickens up the pathogenesis process so that it quickly develops the illness very quickly. Now they have found that a strange thing, that those who get infected in the night, the situation becomes worse and our immunity is lowest at 7 p.m. This is a strange thing. So the cytokine reactions and all of that is quite bad, and the immunity is being low at 7 p.m. if you get infected at that time. A new study says that the situation it'll develop badly. So that's an indication that it's a good time to avoid the pub and other things where you might be with your guards down. Yes, that's just by the way. So the cinnamon drink, and then of course other dangerous thing about this feature is that with this variant, people can feel quite okay till the 8th day, and in the 8th day the lung begins to react. So what are you going to watch for? You have to watch for one, sudden headache, then take it as an indicator. You must consult a doctor. Now in the Western province, you can contact 1390. It's on a massive software program, and doctors are on call, and 44 family physicians are on call. If you need further advice, the medical officer will get at the specialist. So it's a great job they're doing right now. And if you need hospitalization, a place will be located. This is how home care is going. What they should do is add to that early home therapy with certain repurposed drugs that can prevent the spread of the virus and can prevent the cytokine storm. So why we take vitamin D and zinc is because the vitamin D increases the interleukins, the specific pro-resolver molecules that ameliorate or calm down the cytokine reaction. Now, cytokine reaction is our defense in our immunity, but it can do an over-attack, use layman's language. So that over-attack is prevented by the specific pro-resolver molecules, interleukin 4 and 10, that brings it down. So these are some of the things that are doable. So if you get a sudden headache or sudden increase of fever, or your cough gets worse, it goes deeper. Then, of course, if you struggle for breath. But what you should do is, once you are infected and you know you were exposed, daily do the breathing exercises. Morning and evening is better. You take a deep breath and count to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like that to 10. And if you observe that you can't hold breath and count, then you know the thing is getting deeper. Excuse me. So those are some of the things about the present state of management, and home management is available now. And then some people keep an oximeter so that you keep checking the pulse oximeter, you keep checking your oxygen level so it doesn't go down. If it goes down or you have any other complication, you can quickly contact the on-call system. So that's a great help that the government and the health ministry have worked together to provide, along with this dialogue producing the connections. So my last talk, I told you, was from Waterloo to Wuhan, Voltaire to variants. Today I want to look at two ships and the journey we have taken and the world has taken from 1960 maybe. By 1960, world was back to almost normal after the Second World War. So between the Second World War and 1960, what happened was nuclear power kept getting developed. What they could have done was they could have used nuclear power for electrical generation and things like that. But what they did was they used nuclear power for nuclear missiles, nuclear submarines, nuclear warships. So man really got ready for war. Now this follows the unfortunate situation. Field Marshal Montgomery said, if you want peace, prepare for war. Now that's the balance of terror situation. Then I have told you in the last clip I did, 215. This is 220. This clip 215, clip number 215. I told you how Robert Oppenheimer, a brilliant physicist, who was the head of the committee that developed nuclear power into a nuclear bomb, how he kept saying we must go ahead with the experiment, and the uranium bomb was called Little Boy, and the plutonium bomb was called Fat Man. Now, all this you need to read from my clip 215. I'm Dr. Lalith Mendis. My last substantive post was as in a state medical faculty as head of Department of Pharmacology. So that's why many of my talks have a bit of pharmacology. I am published on PubMed on aspirin, levodopa, that is Parkinson drug, and few other things like migraine and irritable bowel syndrome. I just gave you the credentials so that you know what I'm speaking is scientific. So from 1960, what world could have been a place where each nation has their resources to equally divide among their own citizens, and the nations get together and do a better world that were devastated by a Second World War. But it was not to be. John Maynard Keynes had already proposed in 1948 in a place called Bretton Woods that you can have unending economic growth if you increase the demand and match the supply. So the advertising world came, the digital world came, so they had to increase the demand of the consumer, so came the consumer extravaganza. So what happened was, when initially housing, health, food and beverages were man's basic needs, we enlarged the needs by advertising, created need, and then that increased demand. Then you increase demand, you supply. So the world's resources were consumed in 40 years, what we may have had for 400 years. And what did we consume it into? Pharma industry, wellness, illness, pharma industry became big time. Then armament industry, then motor industry followed the journey. Now there were two ships journey. One was MV Fantastica. The world's, the great and the who's who were in it. They said world's resources are for our enrichment. We do it anyhow, by hook or by crook. And science was used to help the rapacious, the global dinosaurs to prosper. Whereas 19th century science was very benevolent. Many of them had a God view of life. So they said resources are to be shared and we are to be benefactors with the knowledge we have. Citizenry are to be the beneficiaries. So 19th century scientists, true scientists, many of them, Michael Faraday, the one who got the electrical and magnetic laws, Sir Lord Kelvin, who got the absolute temperature, Louis Pasteur. Louis Pasteur is the one who got the vaccinations going and the pasteurization going, Edward Jenner, the smallpox vaccine, so many, Sir Alexander Fleming, penicillin and antibiotics. They had a worldview, not of a MV merchant vessel Fantastica. They had a worldview of HMS, His Majesty's Service, the Redemtorian. Now I'm pitching a parable, a story, two ships. So in the world at 1960, there were two ships. One, the fast developing, the Titanic kind of MV Fantastica, people fantasizing great things, and the HMS Redemtoria, providing basic services, picking up the fallen, healing up the bruises. So these two ships were on the ocean of life, or the global ocean, and whom do you think will win? By 1990, it really looked as if Fantastica was fantastic. But how did it happen? It happened. Now, I told you that 19th century scientists who really labored believed in a benevolent God, a good shepherd, who gave us to share with benevolence. No patents, no additional money costs. They gave their scientific knowledge to humanity free, no charges. So drugs were very cheap, medical procedures, new innovations, nobody earned profit. Government took it over and did it for their citizenry, and they shared it with the whole world. That's how the world was. But the world began to change. Keynesian economics, world began to change. What a tragic change it was. So you must read my clip number 215. If you don't have those clips, it's on my YouTube, it's on my Facebook timeline. But if you would send me a WhatsApp number, please don't call, send me a WhatsApp message to +94 76 313 4800. +94, that's Sri Lanka, 76 313 4800. Please send a WhatsApp message to that. I'll send you the clip you asked for. As you hear the topics, you can ask for it. By 1970, the world's GDP, 70% was handled or controlled by 30%. Some inequality, but not so bad. By 1990, 90% of the world's GDP was handled by the 10% in the MV Fantastica. So what do I mean by MV Fantastica? They were in a struggle for existence, and the fittest only should survive. Now, I have done this philosophy in great detail in my clip number 215, how Charles Darwin in 1859 put out Origin of Species, though he called it Origin of Species, it's only Survival of Species, and Karl Marx put out Das Kapital. So Darwin's philosophy ultimately worked into scientists, and Marx's philosophy worked into the socio-economic world, that only the fittest should survive. So the fit surviving were in MV Fantastica, and those other ship was HMS Redemtoria. They had a different worldview. They had a worldview that a good shepherd had provided the resources to be shared freely and equally. So in a nation, you look after your citizens, and your nation may have something another nation doesn't have. For instance, Sri Lanka has 126 rivers with potable water. We can drink from all our rivers. So the Third World War may not be about oil, but maybe about potable water. That's why nations are interested in Sri Lanka, for its strategic location and for its potable water and our food supply. Every hectare of Sri Lanka can produce food. So we desperately need to get our food production in order. Now, you're all worried about the fertilizer situation. We can be a real food exporting country. That is our forte. And our water and our strategic location and our aquatic resources. Our sea is abundant with life. We have every reason to say, thank you, God our Father, for giving us a nation like Sri Lanka. So don't abdicate. Don't be a rat, ratting out of the ship. Be a person who says, I want to be in Sri Lanka, and I want to teach my children to be in Sri Lanka, and I want to develop this nation with a benefactor's heart. So where are the benefactors? They are in the HMS, His Majesty's Service Redemtoria. And the MV Fantastica looks fantastic. So let me backtrack a little. I came first in the island in the A-level examination, sitting for the A-level from St. Thomas's College, Mount Lavinia. So we were taught grit, we were taught service. We were taught equality, all races flourished together. No one's background was of any consequence. It was merit at work, merit at extracurricular activities, or merit in sports. That chose a prefect. So I came first in the island in the 1970 A-level examination, doing chemistry, physics, botany, and zoology. And I entered Colombo Medical Faculty, and every exam I became batch top. I told you this to make a passionate plea that benefactors know that they are placed in a nation for the good of everybody. And you have a particular skill set, gift set, with which you will flourish. Of course, you will flourish. So the pattern is of the Good Shepherd. He says, you will not have want. And he has green pastures for you that will be satisfying for you. Every human heart craves for satisfaction. Two, every human heart craves for development. So the step number two is he will lead us into more waters, better prosperity to our next resources. So he must lead us into next resources. Then we will not go survival of the fittest. We will not go struggle for existence. We will do it like the people of HMS Redemtoria, like the early scientists of the 19th century who gave all their medical knowledge, scientific knowledge, and innovations for the benefit of mankind. No patents. They didn't charge anybody anything. They gave it to the government, and government developed it for others, for the citizenry, and they shared common knowledge across the country. So we got our medical systems, civil services, postal systems, education systems from the British who came here. So there is another part to colonialism. There's a bad part, definitely, but there's a good part also. So we, to this day, we have excellent medical system, one of the best in the world in its training procedures. That's how we are holding on with such a bad situation. So my appeal today is consider the HMS Redemptoria. So by 1990, 90% of the world's resources were being governed, handled, decided upon by 10%. For what? Beyond health, beyond food, beyond housing, three basic needs of man, and beyond education. If you make those four things fair, you get a just and equal society. Food, housing, health, education. Now, you know, in Sri Lanka, health is free, education is free. What a endowment, isn't it? Even university education is free. Even medical education is free. So when you say a country like no other, don't say it with ridicule. Don't say it derogatorily. Mean it, country with no other, because nobody gives medical education free. Nobody can have university education free. It's Sri Lanka. So we have a gratis, and we have a bonus to do for our nation. So that's by the way. So, but by 1990, 10% on the ship MV Fantastica was deciding what to do with 90% of GDP. So what did that go for? Big time pharma industry, wellness, illness industry. Then came armament, motor industry, IT industry, fashion big time. Then came confectionaries, toys, perfume, so many things that we really did not need. But Keynesian economics said, drive the demand, do the supply, produce. Consumerism extravaganza took over. Then comes 2010. By 2010, 99% of world's resources were governed, ruled, decided for by 1% of the world's people, population. So they have a real global genocides, billionaires. And then comes 2020, the COVID year. And we have Elon Musk and Richard Branson having a competition, go do space tourism, and a ticket is 29 million US dollars. Can you see where we have come? So in the last year, three of the world's top billionaires became 3 times more prosperous. So you can understand where the money of citizens and governments went because of a pandemic. Now it is conclusively proved the virus was lab-made. We knew it from the beginning that the virus was lab-made because the spike protein of SARS-CoV-2 has an amino acid sequence where 4 amino acids are adjacent together, positively charged. There is no natural protein where you can have 4 amino acids positively charged at tandem to each other. So we now conclusively know SARS-CoV-1 mRNA was worked upon with genetic engineering at furin points. Those are the enzyme points at which genetic engineering can be done. So at furin points, they added nucleotide sequence. So mRNA works with a nucleotide sequence. I wish I had something to show you this. Let me take this. Let's say this is a mRNA. So it has nucleotide sequence. At a furin point, they added some nucleotides in a lab, and that nucleotide sequence made the spike protein to attach quickly and very with high attachment to the ACE2 receptor. Now they are worried that other proteins in the virus is mutating to attach to other surface proteins of human cells. So ACE2 receptor is a protein, and ACE means angiotensin converting enzyme. So it is related to the blood pressure. So it's a normal receptor in the body, because the body physiology works with protein receptors and molecules that come and get attached to it to keep our enzymes functioning and our physiology functioning. So that's a little bit of the history. So the gain on function virus research, that is to make natural viruses more virulent, was first initiated in the CDC US and was transferred to Wuhan in 2017. Research began in US in 2014, transferred to Wuhan in 2017 with a $7 million grant, and even the Pentagon has been transferring money to Wuhan to work on this virus thing. So it sounds madness, but that's how it happened. This is the sad story of what science has done. So we are reaping the consequences of it. But let's see how, as humanity, how as citizens of a nation, we can pull together, isn't it? Having a problem is one thing, but let's develop a solution. So the two ships, MV Fantastica, making it fantastic for few people, and HMS Redemtoria, being benefactors for many people. So it was picking up everyone. It didn't look glamorous, but it was doing the services that are necessary for human beings. So your choice is, am I part of MV Fantastica or am I part of HMS Redemtoria, where we are benefactors to others who need our services? Of course, we must earn a livelihood. We must thrive. Our children must be thriving, but we can also be serving. Serving and thriving do not have to be mutually exclusive. That's my point. So here I am coming to a particular little word that I want to read to you. This is about another city that this was said. It was said about Jerusalem in 33 AD. Oh, Jerusalem, Jerusalem. We can say, oh, Colombo, Colombo. How often I wanted to gather your children together. So how are we living? In a gathering together style or scattering to get as much as I can? What is your philosophy of life? So the Good Shepherd says he wants to gather together, which means we have to consider each other. So what has COVID done over 1 year and more? Gathered us or scattered us, each man for himself, and don't know where God is. Yeah, is that how you think? The way a hen gathers her children under her wings. So there are wings, good systems the Good Shepherd provided. I told you one, knowing the Good Shepherd, you will not have want, you have your basic sufficiencies. Everybody craves for it. Then every human being wants development, wants improvement. So he says, I'll lead you to more, my way. Then he says, point number 3, I'll bring you to a place of restoration. What is that? When things go wrong, we need a place to get it right. Human beings right wrongs, W-R-I-T, right wrongs. But the Good Shepherd helps us to right wrongs, R-I-G-H-T, wrongs. It is possible. That's the place of restoration. 4th step is, he will lead me in paths of righteousness, next generation to next generation. All the provision and the resources of the world is for us to look after our family and to raise up the next generation to carry on with the world. Whole point of the world, as the Good Shepherd designed, was to care for the next generation, to carry on for the next generation and another generation. That's how the world came to it up to now. Now, whom do you think is most civilized? First century or 21st century? Think of it. Whom do you think is more cultured? Who is living for the next generation better? Which parents are living for the next generation better? 2020 parents, 1980 parents, or 1520 parents? So we need a completely different understanding of how HMS Redemtoria functions and how MV Fantastica functions. By now, 99.99 of the GDP is driven by zero point 0.01 global dinosaurs, global elite, who decide how governments should shut down, run down, this, that, and the other. Governments are helpless. They don't know what to do to feed their citizens, keep the economies going. Is there a way out? There is a way out. So there is a solution, but we have to work together at it. So this was the talk of the two ships. Then I want to read another one, little like that. This is that one. Here it is. Let me read it to you. For and there was weeping. If you had known, now they again speaking to Jerusalem, we can say, Colombo, if you had known in this day, even you, the things which make for peace, but now they have been hidden from your eyes. For the days will come upon you when enemies will throw up barricades. We might say viruses throw up variants, ruining our immunity, separating us from each other against you, and surround you and hem you on every side. Why did this happen? And we are told, because you did not know the things that make for your peace. So what are the things that make for our peace? I would say what makes for our peace is to know the Good Shepherd, and also to have forgiveness for the things we do wrong, and give forgiveness for the things others do wrong. Perhaps the most famous word is, Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they do. Another famous word is, give us this day our daily bread. Everybody's daily bread. It did not say, give us this day my bread, as much as I want, enough for me for 40 years. No. Give us this day our daily bread. So HMS Redemptoria cares for its incumbents, citizens, in a way they share. And knowledge they have, they earn from it, but they share also. MV Fantastica, increasingly what happens is, the lower deck people are submerging in trouble. Then the next deck people think they are kingpins. Next deck people. But they do not know. There are counsel of evil and deep selfishness intoxicating the minds of people. Then there are ways that are being already formed for a few to get super rich. So there are seats of the scornful. They look laughing at the lower decks. Those idiots don't know they are serving our whim and will and our fancy. Few people are like that. Imagine in the COVID year doing space tourism. You think man is developed? Can man be more insane than this? When nations are in such dire trouble, people don't have to eat, national governments don't know what to do. So please don't criticize your government. You think government is in England is doing better? Our national income is $29 billion for a year, and our debt is $31 billion. So we have a debt servicing of 110%. You know the situation in Britain? Their annual is 1 trillion US dollars, and their debt is 1 trillion US dollars, 100% in debt. So no government has done well. That's because governments are made to spend on non-essentials so much when food, housing, education, health are really at risk. Can you see where the crunch is coming? So I want to examine this little statement, see how it goes. Blessed are the needy in spirit, because they will share and live. But those who have no need will create the need out of which they will profit. Number two, blessed are those who mourn, because they will realize their faults and put it right. But there's another kind who never take back, they take it out on others. They are powerful. They say, might is right. Third one, blessed are the meek, for they will grow, develop, leaving space and opportunity for others. Then there are the mighty who take over everything without leaving anyone else. Those are just three things. Let me tell the fourth one. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, because they will make room for others also. And then there's another kind. They keep no room for others. They take everything over. That's where the world is going. George Orwell in 1984 saw this as the Animal Farm, where people rapaciously treat each other. That is MB Fantastica. But in the HMS Redemtoria, there are people who believe that we have one common Father, and we still say, give us our daily bread and help us share. And we say, forgive what we do for others and forgive us also. We forgive what others do to us and forgive us also. So this is how peace is made. I think I have spoken enough, but I want to, yes, I have mostly done. I have a document that was published by the College of General Practitioners of Sri Lanka about management of this present condition. I like to send it to you. Please send a WhatsApp message to my WhatsApp number +94 76 313 4800. And you can send me your doctor's telephone number also, WhatsApp message. I can send it to him also. That is up on the June newsletter of the Ceylon, on the College of General Practitioners Sri Lanka, CGPSL June newsletter. You can see it on the web, but if you send me your WhatsApp number, I will send you the clip and the article. Thank you for listening. This is a time. This is a time for sanity. This is a time for rethink. One last point. We were told he wants to lead us forward to the best that is yet to come. We often say that best is yet to come. In a COVID world, it's difficult to think best is yet to come. But I'm making this appeal. Don't think of sending your children abroad and losing them, because we have already created a world where parents are not cared for by children. Take care when they are 12, 8, 15, best before 12. Care for them deeply, because by 13, they are changing and they are listening to their peers and hormones begin to play. So before 13 years, care all you can and teach them what caring is, what sharing is. Because if you send them abroad, they will only care for themselves in a very selfish, ostracized world of woke culture and selfishness. That's what's happening. They lose their parents, they lose their guardianship, they lose all sense that there's a good shepherd who's holding the world together while human beings are. You heard what I said before, how I want to take you under a mother hen's wings. So there are wings that are gathering and there are forces that are scattering. You have to decide where you play your part, with the gatherers or with the scatterers. So the scatterers, I call them MB Fantastica. For the while, it looks great. But already we can see that ship is sinking, that system. But there's a ship that never changed, HMS Redemptoria, where benefactors work for their beneficiaries with beneficence, because we have a good shepherd who works like that. So he wants to lead us, but there are three kinds of things behind you that's pulling you back. One, the things that you are ashamed of, you want to forget, but you can't forget. They come up, they come up. He wants to erase them off. Two, things in your past you don't want to forget, the grudges, the bitterness, tit for tat, the Shylock nature, the Zacchaeus nature. I want to give them all what I got. Young fellows may think of parents like that. Those things also he wants to erase. There's a third kind of things that work in us, our greatness, my pride, my conceit, my way is highway, the Frank Sinatra thing. All those three things we need to bring to the Good Shepherd, and then he takes it over and changes our thinking and shows us the paths that have no mountains, no, no conceit, arrogance, no valleys where there's mud and we get stuck, no bent, crooked places where we are stuck, and no rough places that injure us and injure others. High places, low places, crooked places, smooth places. He does it well, and he calls them his paths of righteousness. We can ask for that. Then we are benefactors, serving beneficiaries with beneficence. This is the model Good Shepherd has to salvage the world even at this point. One more thing, world's corals are down to 40%. Corals maintain the pH value for all living systems to function, enzymes of all living systems. If a human body loses two-thirds of the kidney, we call it renal failure. The world has lost 60% of its kidney, the corals, that takes in the carbon dioxide and balances the pH. So we are at 40% corals. What will happen if corals go down to 30%? We don't know, isn't it? Nobody knows. So our ecology is maintained mostly under the ocean. Under the ocean, we have mountains taller than Everest, undulating surface. Most 70% of oxygen is made in the ocean by huge vegetation, and our pH value is made in the ocean. So there's a great designer. There's a grand old designer, God, who did these designs as a loving father. If we get back to him personally and corporately, we will do well. Thank you for listening.